Events are unfolding rapidly in the Gulf Cooperation Council GCC countries amidst regional development and the accompanying relentless Iranian aggression. Dear viewers, we continue our live coverage to bring you the latest local, regional and international developments amid media pronouncements, psychological warfare and military escalation that is igniting the Middle East. And joining us now in the studio is Dr. Ziyad Alayan, Editor-in-Chief of Kuwait Times newspaper. Good evening, Dr. Ziyad, and thank you for being part of our special coverage here at KTV2 News.
Good evening. Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure.
Thank you. Now, before we begin with this segment in our coverage, we'd like to call upon our fellow citizens and residents in these circumstances that the country is going through to demonstrate social and national responsibility by not circulating false information and rumours, and also to adhere to the instructions and recommendations issued by official authorities by avoiding going out except for extreme necessities in order to facilitate the tasks of the security services that are working to ensure security and safety throughout our dear homeland. In the wake of the brutal Iranian attacks that targeted the region earlier this week, Kuwait's leadership has intensified efforts on the ground to reinforce national preparedness and safeguard the continuity of vital services. Over the past several days, His Highness Sheikh Ahmed Abdullah Ahmed Al-Sabah, the Prime Minister, may Allah protect him, has carried out a series of field inspections across the country's most critical sectors, closely monitoring operational readiness and ability of key institutions to maintain essential services under all circumstances. The visits covered food security, healthcare, preparedness, energy infrastructure, logistics, aviation operations and national communication systems. Let's get more details in this report.
At a time of rapid regional developments and escalating security challenges, the State of Kuwait leadership has moved swiftly on the ground to reinforce national preparedness and closely monitor the readiness of the country's most vital sectors. Throughout the week, His Highness Sheikh Ahmed Abdullah Ahmed Al-Sabah, the Prime Minister, may Allah protect him, carried out a series of field inspections across key strategic facilities in the country, overseeing readiness levels and the operational preparedness of institutions responsible for safeguarding essential services. Among the first stops was Kuwait's food security system. His Highness inspected the Kuwait Supply Company, reviewing the strategic stock of essential commodities, distribution mechanisms, and the emergency plans designed to guarantee uninterrupted food supplies for citizens and residents. The tour continued to the Kuwait Flour Mills and Bakeries Company, where His Highness was briefed on production capacity and at the mills and bakeries, and on the measures being taken to strengthen the country's strategic reserves of flour and staple goods. As part of monitoring market stability and the flow of essential products across the country, His Highness also visited the Central Control Room at the Ministry of Social Affairs. Officials briefed him on the electronic monitoring systems used to track the movement of goods across cooperative societies nationwide, enabling authorities to follow supply levels in real time and ensure the steady availability of essential commodities in a local market. In the health sector, His Highness visited the Ministry of Health's medical supply warehouses in Sabhan, one of the country's central hubs for pharmaceutical storage. There, His Highness reviewed the systems used to manage the national drug inventory and the storage and distribution mechanisms that ensure hospitals and healthcare centers remain fully supplied under all circumstances. His Highness also inspected the emergency shelter at Al Jahra Hospital, where officials briefed him on the shelter's operational procedures during emergencies, along with the safety systems, logistical arrangements, and service facilities designed to provide a source environment for citizens and residents in exceptional situations. In the energy sector, the inspections extended to Mina Al Ahmadi refinery operated by the Kuwait National Petroleum Company, where His Highness reviewed the refinery's operational process and the procedure in place to maintain stable production and ensure the continued operation of critical oil facilities. The visit also included the National Control Center at the Ministry of Electricity, Water and Renewable Energy, the nerve center of Kuwait's power grid, where His Highness reviewed the systems used to manage electricity supply and the levels of the technical readiness, ensuring uninterrupted power across the country. As part of monitoring supply chains and national logistics, His Highness visited Shuaibah Port, where he was briefed on port operations, cargo movement, and the mechanisms in place to ensure the steady flow of goods into the country. The inspections also extended to Kuwait International Airport, where His Highness reviewed operational readiness across airport facilities and the preparedness of the relevant authorities to maintain air transport and logistical operations. His Highness also visited Liberation Tower, where he was briefed on Kuwait's communication systems, digital infrastructure, and the emergency plans designed to ensure the uninterrupted operational of telecommunications and information technology. These successive field visits reflect a direct approach to monitoring vital sectors in the country and send a clear and reassuring message that the state is raising its level of preparedness across all sectors to guarantee service, stability, and enhance its ability to respond to any developments.
We are back here to dear viewers, and we are still giving you the latest regarding the heinous strikes from Iran to the GCC nations, and of course the events unfolding and efforts done by the government. And now right here with my guest that I just introduced to you, Dr. Ziyad, welcome again. And after a very warm welcome, these past days they have been difficult for the state of Kuwait and GCC nations, and kind of unprecedented heinous strikes from Iran that the GCC nations have been facing, and I believe that it has unfolded politically, economically, socially, culturally in a way, and certain aspects of course have been affected. So all these aspects I would like to discuss with you, but let us narrow down to the local angle, and if you can tell us what kind of messages and interpretation could you tell us that the visit of His Highness the Prime Minister and officials and ministers to the food security, let's say, and healthcare services, that they have been doing and inspections, what do they send as a message to the public, and what kind of interpretations do you have for that?
Right. Well, thanks again for having me. Well, obviously these visits from His Highness the Prime Minister and our leadership are a good sense of security for the public. I mean, this is the sense that we get from talking to the locals and our friends and families. The lack of knowledge in any crisis is obviously the greatest propagator of fear. So I speak for myself as well, it's quite reassuring to see our leadership, a lot of whom I actually know, out and about, visiting sites, looking as calm as they do. I think it sends a very good and reassuring signal to the public and all those who live in Kuwait. So obviously we encourage it, and we hope to see more of it.
So that increases the level of confidence in the public just by seeing officials doing inspections and actually assuring the public that the strategic reserves, I want to move to that point, by assuring the public the strategic reserves is available and is at high level in terms of food security and in terms of healthcare services. So how about these things, about the strategic reserves?
Yeah, you've seen things change from day one of the crisis to this day. There was a little bit of panic, which is expected, including panic buying that you saw in the co-ops and everywhere else. And a few days later only, this scene has settled down. I think these visits, these messages that are being sent have reassured the public in Kuwait that we are in a very good shape. We're a very resilient country, alhamdulillah. We've been through a lot. And like I said, the level of panic that we saw perhaps on the first 24 hours is not what we're seeing today. And I think these statements and these visits have definitely helped.
It's not because people have gotten used to the strike, it's because of the level of confidence that the government have imposed in the public? Can we say that?
I think it's a bit of both. You never really get used to bombs over your head, but I think the initial couple of days of uncertainty of how bad and how quickly this will resolve is what struck fear in a lot of people. So I think the reassurance that we're seeing, the reassurance that our reserves are well, especially a sector that I work with as well as a Ministry of Health, that our hospitals are capable, our medicine stores are fine. That gives you instant reassurance, especially when it comes to water supplies and food sort of storages. It's just reassuring. I think that's what it is.
And moving to the public and how rumors have been playing a big part in the public's psychology, whether be it as a psychological warfare or anything like that. How can people deal with rumors, especially that you've been witnessing how rumors have been circulating heavily in social media, not only in the state of Kuwait, but at the GCC level, and it has been affecting the psychology of one's being. So how can we deal with that? Is it only that we have to listen to the official statements?
Well, no, look, in this digital era, information is there whether you want it or not. So I think the more we hear from the officials that represent us and less from other platforms, I think the better. So like I said, if there's no voice coming from the government, which in Kuwait, alhamdulillah, there's a lot coming, and we should focus on the information we're getting from there and not be distracted by the information we're getting from all the other platforms that you can't really control, to be honest, and you cannot vet.
And AI has been playing a big part, right, in that, in terms of imposing fear and panic in the public, right? I have noticed.
Absolutely, and I think it's also important that that the government side comes out and announces or negates some of those AI videos that let's be honest, they're not going to stop. So I think the message is still the same. Stick to the official public, government, respectable news agencies locally here for your information.
Do you see it as a good thing that or how do you evaluate how the government is dealing with the rumors? So they're using media as well to combat fake news and rumors. So those who are using media to circulate panic and fear are being combated by media itself. So how do you evaluate the situation?
It's a bit of a tug of war. Obviously, I think, my humble opinion, obviously I represent a part of the media. I think the onus is on us to ensure that we debunk fake news. I mean, this has been the topic of interest now worldwide. I think there's a lot of fake news that's coming from outside Kuwait as well, perhaps as part of this whole campaign to instill fear within us. So again, I think there's a heavy reliance on our local media, such as what you're doing here today, and our ministries and our official spokespeople to ensure the continuity of their messages. Because the second, people want information now. Your average person is sitting at home or doing his work, doesn't have a lot of access to high level information. So our only source of information is what we see. So the more we hear from our governments and our official spokesmen, the better, and the less distracting it will be.
It's actually helpful that Ministry of Interior, Ministry of Defense and Ministry of Health spokespersons are speaking to the public constantly, especially in times of interception of strikes, right?
Yes,
this is the most time there is panic.
Yep, which has been happening quite a lot over the last couple of days. So, and you see it happening almost instantaneously. You get these messages on your social media platforms, and then an hour later you get the true story, or you see the AI video, and there's a bit of a panic usually, you can't help it, and then alhamdulillah, minutes sometimes later you get the official report that this is not the case. So I think we need to continue doing that.
And what about the strategies and instructions and guidelines that the government has been putting out in terms of sticking to them, whether be it in times of sirens activating or not recording or recording any objectile or fragments? These guidelines and strategies, some people seem to be less aware of how serious and important they are. Why or what would you tell the public of their importance of following the guidelines?
Well, to be honest, as a citizen, and usually even after Futur, I'm constantly seeing this on TV. I'm seeing people from the Ministry of Interior explain the sirens on a daily basis. Initially, I thought they're doing it too much, but actually no, they're doing it just about the right amount. It is reassuring. People panic when they hear sirens, even though you know and you've seen the news. So I think it's quite reassuring to continue the education. for those that might forget, or for those who have not actually heard the initial bulletins, basically. So I think this level of awareness is absolutely vital, considering that it's a daily occurrence almost till
almost
today.
Yeah. And at the local level, could you think of any let's say example that Kuwaitis have gone similar thing through, or is this unprecedented to this generation? Because some people might say that we've been through this before.
Yeah, well, there's parallels to draw, actually, and mashallah, we've been through a lot over the last 10 years. I'm not talking about the invasion, I'm talking even beyond. And there are parallels to be drawn from COVID as well. It was not a war, but it was a significant pandemic where misinformation, again, could lead to panic and an unwell state. So I think similar parallels could be drawn. I think we're resilient population. We've been through a lot, you know, the Gulf War, the invasion, Corona, the pandemic, etc. So I think
pandemic could be drawn as a parallel to today's conflict.
Well, obviously it's not a political conflict; it's a healthcare conflict. But absolutely, in terms of the false information that could be given,
that's right.
the lack of information or lack of understanding. To be honest, a lot of parallels could be drawn between the lack of understanding of the current political climate, that I think very few people can claim to fully understand, as well as the period, or in comparison to the period that we saw in the early days of Corona, where again there was a lot of, I'm a physician as well, as you know, and I can be honest and say, look, in the first initial couple of months of Corona, there's a lot of lack of information, a lot of confusion. So yes, parallels can be drawn.
And these kind of lack of understanding and circulation of rumors, these are the ones that intensify, if it's appropriate to say, panic and fear and uncertainty in one's well-being and psychology, right?
Yes, hence why we need to keep getting messages from our official sites and government officials to reassure the public, or those who have less knowledge, basically.
Okay, well, that's clear about the local aspect, Dr. Ziyad. Now we'll get a live stream from one of our correspondents, and then we'll get back to you. Then, dear viewers, we have our colleague Mohammed Al-Sawagh, who is on field reporting to us. Mohammed Sawagh, can you hear me?
Yes, Abdurrahman.
Mohammed Sawagh, tell us where exactly are you, and tell us the latest updates you have for us.
Well, Abdurrahman, I would like to take the opportunity to thank you and thank our colleagues Mohammed Al-Awadi and Khalid Al-Hajji, who's reporting from different locations. First, I'm here at Ashbilia Cooperative Co-op Society. This is one of the largest market in the area. As you can see behind me, the market is full stocked with all kind of products, and they even open another branch for the market for Ramadan products. Here the customers, they are buying like it's a normal day in Ramadan. The prices are normal, nothing have been increased. The market is running smoothly as the cashiers and the lines are not busy. I've been talking to the administration on the floor number 1, and they were telling me that they are working around the clock to ensure that everything is running smoothly and there are no shortages in the market, as well as checking the prices. There were some field inspectors, commercial inspectors, that they are checking the markets and checking if there is any increase in the prices. In the room, in the first floor, they have cameras to monitoring this market. And actually, Ashbilia Co-op Society is considered one of the largest in the area. It doesn't serve the city itself, but it serves other cities as well. I would like to mention as well that the Minister of Commerce and Industry, Osama Budey, he's doing a tour these days, and what I've received from my phone just now, that he had closed 2 shops who have not followed the rules, and they are working around the clock. There are an emergency operation rooms in As-Sadiq Co-op for the Ministry of Commerce and Industry. They have cameras all around the market to check if there is any shortages. I've seen this room. There are hundreds of screens in that room, and it checked the storage, the market, the cashiers, all around the area. And they have a hotline with the Ministry of Interior and other government body to check if there is any emergency. The government and the teams who's working 24/7 over there, they are ready for any kind of scenario. I would like to send a message from our screen that to the people that our situation is in an excellent level. Our strategic reserve, I've been checking in the Kuwait Supply Company, which it have a branch here in Ashbilia Co-op Society. They have full stocked goods and supplies that can be in here for months. Our situation is excellent. People need to stay calm, and just the officials were telling me that people need to follow the informations from the official sources.
Yes.
So no need to be worried. Come to the market, buy what you need, and it's another normal day in Ramadan.
And it's good that you are informing the viewers and have informed them about the Minister of Industry and Commerce that he's doing a tremendous job in imposing regulations that the shops are being shut down if they do not follow. But Muhammad, you just mentioned that the stockpile is good from where you are, and you have been to Ardia Industrial and you've been to the vegetable markets in other days, and now you're at the Ashbilia Co-op. So in any other in the co-op itself, you never seen or witnessed any unusual, let's say, shortage in any stockpile, right? Everything is going at great levels, just like before the strikes. Just for those who are wondering.
Well, yes, Abdurrahman. From what I've seen here on field reporting, behind me you can see that the market is full stocked with all kinds of products. The market is very big, that the camera cannot take all of it, but most of the products here are available, okay? And the products are in the stock rooms as well as in full. As I mentioned earlier, the Ministry of Commerce and Industry, they already have plans for this kind of situation, which is an emergency situation. They have plans for more than one scenario. And I've been talking to them, and they confirmed that our situation and strategic reserve in an excellent level. They were trying to confirm for people that no need to worry. There are no panic buying for the markets. It's just like another day in Ramadan, that the people at the beginning of any Ramadan, they usually stocks for the rest of the month. And I've seen people trying to buy some products and preparing for Eid al-Fitr here in this market.
Yes, Muhammad, before we let you go, now one last question, just out of curiosity. Now, did you also notice any unusual kind of panic buying that's been happening? A lot of rumors circulate, and we need to debunk them, that there is a big amount of people that buy big amount of quantities of food, beverages or anything like that. Did you notice that? I needed to inform the viewers of what you have witnessed, even about the people's activity themselves at the co-op from where you are, Muhammad.
Yes, Abdurrahman. Well, from what I saw from my field reporting, there are no panic buying at all. It's normal buying. Lines are running smoothly, and I've been talking to the people who's working in the management of this co-op society in Ashbilia. They were telling me that there are no panic buying at all. The market can serve this area and other areas as well. It's a very big market with a big storage, and it have plus that it have a warehouse by Kuwait Supply Company that have lots of products, and they work with them 24/7 with the fields teams on the ground that checking in line with the Ministry of Interior. In case of any shortage of any product, they can send it directly. Trucks are everywhere and ready to work around the clock. The prices and the stocks are being managed by the Ministry of Commerce and Industry. I've seen commercial field inspectors. They are checking if there is any increase in the market or any shops that taking the advantage of this situation to hide some product or to increase the prices. They are not. They are taking their job seriously. They already had plans for this kind of situation, and now they are apply it.
Great. Mohammed Al-Sawwaq, that was informative. Thank you and be safe. Well, dear viewers, that was our colleague Mohammed Sawwaq. Now we get back to our dear guest, Dr. Ziyad, right here in the studio. Now, Doctor, we have spoken about the local side. I would like to extend our discussion beyond the local and try to understand from your perspective about the conflict itself from a military perspective. Could you tell us how would you, and under which concept would you put the military, let's say, campaign that is happening? How would you frame it? How would you characterize this conflict or strikes that are happening?
Right. That's a very open-ended question.
It is.
Obviously, my point of view, and of course I'm not the military expert, I have to declare that. We're in a situation where we didn't want to be. And to be completely honest, I think everyone agrees with me. This is a conflict that, technically speaking, we're not even supposed to be involved in the first place. It is unfortunate that geographically and politically we find ourselves in this position today. Needless to say, whether we're a part of this or not, it is something that we're going to have to live with and do our best to hopefully, inshallah, survive. This is a war that we were dragged into. Kuwait, historically, needless to say, Kuwait is, I'm not saying it because I'm a Kuwaiti, we're one of the most peaceful nations on the planet, and our leadership, historically speaking, has always been involved in perhaps every peace talk known in the history since 1961. So it is very unfortunate that we find ourselves in this military conflict as victims or bystanders.
And now that, of course, you reassuring that and affirming that, yes,
right,
we weren't supposed to be part of that. Many analysts claim that this might have been supposed to be a lean and mean war, claiming that this should have been a limited conflict with the limited cost and rapid political results. Was this supposed to be that way? And did this assumption collapse if it was supposed to be the case?
Well, again, I have to reiterate that this is my personal view, and I'm not representing, obviously, a government view.
Exactly.
But I think it's somewhat ignorant to think that this is going to be lean, mean, and over in a few days. Iran is a large country, and I'm glad you said war, because until recently, we've had people in the U.S. Senate and Congress not even wanting to use the terminology. And I think the terminology that was used by people like Lindsey Graham and many others is this is a strategic strike.
Yeah.
Well, I think my humble opinion is that clearly we are at war. This is not a strategic strike. This is a war that was imposed on us. And again, my humble opinion is that this is a war that was instigated, in my opinion, by Israel, not even the United States. It's ironic that, unfortunately, the mandate of this, I believe it's called Epic Fury, is to end, one of the mandates of this war apparently was to end the proxies that are used by Iran in the region. And the irony is that this is a war being fought by the proxy of Israel, which unfortunately is the current US administration, and push them to the point of I believe now, no return. So I don't think
and Iran
used
that in the equation for its purposes, whatever the purposes are, by including us geographically, maybe for geographical purposes or other any interests, right, in the region, because there is many US bases in many different countries, but we see ourselves involved in a war that we have nothing to do with.
Yes, and this is, I think, the second time that that I believe I'm not obsessed with the conspiracy theory of Israel, but this is the second time that we've been pulled into a war, and the United States have been pushed into a war that we have nothing to do with, unfortunately. Look, the only side I'm taking here today is the side of Kuwait. We are innocent bystanders here. We are innocent bystanders here in Kuwait. And again, I don't think it's appropriate that we are being bombarded from the skies from Iran. I'm not trying to be sarcastic or funny, but I think the Iranians can pretty much find Israel. You can just Google map it and they'll find it. So there's no reason why we've been hit 8 times more than Israel. It's just unacceptable, whether there are American bases here or not. There are American bases pretty much everywhere in the world. There are American bases in the UK, in Germany, in Spain. So I think it is not acceptable to say the retaliation should be on the Gulf states because they're American bases.
And what about speaking of the retaliation? Would it have any consequences, and what do you think of the consequences in the coming days, even though it's quite hard to predict of what's coming in the coming days and then in the near future, but would it be anything that has to do with regional restructure or anything else in the upcoming period?
Yeah, it's very difficult. I think this is one of the few conflicts in the world actually where very few people can actually predict. Even high sort of high politicians within the States and Europe, I think are kept in the dark. I genuinely believe that anybody that stands out today, with the exception perhaps of the US President or the Israeli Prime Minister, to say or to try and pass some judgment as to when this might be over or what the next steps are, I think it's very difficult to be fair. No one seems to know. And for once, even Europe has been very, very quiet because I don't think they've been kept in the strategic loop as to what's going on, to be honest.
And what about militarily, still speaking militarily, going forward with the war itself and strikes? Do you think that it may have to do with any conflict between the great powers, or it may be limited to the sides that are involved, or still it can't be judged from this kind of perspective?
I think it's a bit too soon to tell. I'm certainly grateful that the other big powers have not been directly involved yet, because obviously an all-out war between the Russians and Chinese and the Americans is not good for world stability. If I was to say who was the only benefactor here, or the only person benefiting from this war long term, I think that would suit the Israeli agenda, to be completely honest, by destabilizing the potential threats that come from the Middle East. There is absolutely no winner here other than the state of Israel at the end of this conflict.
Exactly, but that poses a question. To what extent Iran is going to extend the United States or drag the US in this war of attrition, or for example a prolonged one, right? Because the US might have found out that the results are different to what they have wanted, right? I'm just saying, from your opinion, what do you think?
Well, again, and this is a conflict that we're seeing even in Congress in the States. We're not entirely sure what the agenda or the mandate of the war was. Initially, there were 9 points mandated from this war. Recently, I think it was Caroline Leavitt that just stated in a press conference that these mandates have been cut down to 4 mandates.
Yes.
And they are to annihilate if I remember correctly, you can correct me, annihilate the Iranian Navy, stop the proxies of Iran, according to them, remove the supreme leader, and incapacitate the nuclear capabilities of Iran. These are the only four mandates. And have these happened today? Some of them have happened. I can't speak about the military capabilities or the stockpiles that Iran has. No one seems to know. The reports that are coming out of the States stated that about 85% of their arsenal has been depleted when it comes to ballistic missiles. I don't know if that's true or not. Certainly the sirens we've been hearing today in Kuwait don't indicate that. I hope the stockpiles are being depleted, but it's yet to be seen, to be completely honest.
Yeah, that's clear. Well, Doctor, we'll get back to you with more questions and evaluative answers from you, but let's take this light bulb with us. In light of recent regional developments and the need to ensure the continuity of maritime traffic and supply chains in Kuwait, the Kuwait Ports Authority has confirmed that operations at Shuwaykh Port are proceeding normally without disruptions. The authority has also announced the gradual resumption of operations at Shuwaykh Port following a precautionary suspension that was implemented after debris fell near the port area. To discuss the readiness of Kuwaiti ports and the safety measures being taken to ensure uninterrupted operations, we are now joined by Engineer Hamad Al-Khayes, Civil Works Maintenance Supervisor at the Technical Department of Kuwait Ports Authority. Welcome and thank you for joining us. Given the current regional circumstances, how do you assess the readiness level of Kuwait ports, particularly Shuwaykh Port, to ensure the continuity of maritime traffic and prevent disruption to import and export operations?
Hello, thanks for hosting me. Firstly, I would like to extend my appreciation to all national teams in Kuwait across all sectors for their continuous effort under these conditions. May Allah protect Kuwait and its people, and may these circumstances pass peacefully. Regarding your question, Kuwait ports, including Shuwaykh Port, operate with business continuity and emergency plans. Readiness is assessed through three areas: operational capability, safety controls, and infrastructure condition. If risks appear, we manage traffic with a phased risk approach to keep trade moving safely.
Yeah, that was clear. But what about the precautionary suspension decision that came after the debris fell near the port? What are the most prominent safety and assessment measures taken by the Ports Authority before the gradual resumption of operations?
The suspension was precautionary. Before reopening, we secured the area, confirmed that there was no ongoing threat, cleared and verified the affected zone, and carried out rapid inspections of the waterfront and operational areas. Operations then resumed gradually with restrictions and close monitoring as needed.
And to what extent is movement of goods entering and exiting the port currently proceeding normally? And is there coordination with relevant authorities to ensure the continued flow of essential goods and materials to Kuwait?
Of course, cargo flow is being managed to remain as close as normal as possible while respecting safety measures. We prioritize essential goods and coordinate continuously with relevant authorities and port stakeholders to avoid bottlenecks and maintain the supply chain.
Yes,
our goal is to maintain the flow of trade, especially essentials, while applying risk controls to keep people, assets, and the environment safe.
Well, that was evaluative, and thank you for the efforts all of you have been putting for the state of Kuwait. Engineer Hamad Al-Khayes, for Civil Works Maintenance Supervisor at Technical Departments of Kuwait Ports Authority. Thanks for joining us and for your insights. Dear viewers, we take a break and come back to you.
في ظل الأوضاع الراهنة معكم اليوم وزارة التجارة والصناعة المعنية في ملف الأمن الغذائي. اليوم نطمنكم بأن الوضع التمويني مستقر تماما ولا يوجد أي نقص في المواد الغذائية الأساسية. كذلك حركة الأسواق طبيعية والسلع متوفرة في نقاط البيع والمخازن بشكل منتظم. إنتاج المياه في المصانع المحلية مستمر على مدار الساعة لضمان تلبية احتياجات الجميع. سلاسل الإمداد تعمل بشكل طبيعي وسلس ولا توجد أي عوائق في تدفق السلع إلى الأسواق. كما أن الأسواق المركزية وجميع نقاط البيع تعمل بشكل طبيعي، والجمعيات التعاونية تواصل نشاطها المعتاد دون أي تأثير. ونؤكد على الجاهزية الكاملة لخطط الطوارئ مع استمرار فرق الرقابة التجارية في متابعة الأسواق ميدانيا بشكل يومي لضمان استقرار الأسعار وتوفر السلع الأساسية فيها. لذلك اليوم احنا نطمنكم ونبشركم بأن الأمور طيبة إن شاء الله ويحافظ الله.
بتوجيهات مباشرة ومتابعة حثيثة ومتواصلة من قبل مجلس الوزراء ووزيرة الشؤون الاجتماعية الدكتورة أمثال الحويلة، سارعت وزارة الشؤون إلى وضع الخطط المسبقة التي تهدف من خلالها إلى المحافظة على مستويات المخزون الاستراتيجي من السلع المواد الغذائية والاستهلاكية، ولضمان سلاسة وسهولة تدفقها إلى الأسواق التعاونية. قامت وزارة الشؤون ممثلة بقطاع التعاون بتشكيل 6 فرق ميدانية بواقع فريق لكل محافظة، وذلك للمتابعة اليومية للتأكد من كفاية المخزون الاستراتيجي. أن هذا العمل هو ثمرة تنسيق وتخطيط مسبق مع جهات الدولة المختصة التي وضعت لضمان استدامة الأمن الغذائي في مختلف الأوقات، ودامت الكويت بحفظ الله ورعايته.
Then we are back to you and still are giving you the latest developments that are happening in the region, and of course with our dear guest, Dr. Ziyad, right here in the studio. Dr. Ziyad, now that we have discussed the military side and of course the local side, now if the conflict continues at this current pace without a decisive outcome as we have been seeing, where do you see the region going? I mean, it is difficult to judge, and it is difficult as well to say what will happen in the near future. But what possible outcomes that could we see in the near future?
Yeah, I mean, I think a big part of this question needs to be posed to the American administration. As we said, we discussed the objectives, or at least the objectives that they have declared. Now, I think a lot of these objectives, or the main ones, probably have been met in terms of annihilating the nuclear capabilities, etc., and all that. So I remain to be a little bit confused as to what further objectives need to be done here. The leadership has been changed, and if you look at Iran and in terms of its nuclear capabilities, unlike Israel, Iran is a part of the NPT, the Non-Nuclear Proliferation Treaty, to the UN, so they have signed that. Iran has allowed IAEA inspectors to go in, again, unlike Israel. So all of that is in check. So I think we need to hear from the American administration as to when they believe.
Especially given the circumstances.
Exactly.
So these questions, they should be posed to them to what outcomes could we possibly
I mean, they've set out outcomes. They've set out outcomes, and I think some of them have been met. So we need to keep hearing from them as to, because let's be honest, the people in control today is the American administration, whether we like to admit it or not.
But since you're speaking of the US and considering the trajectory of the conflict, what kind of strategic threat that might be to the US, considering the trajectory of the conflict itself?
Well, I'm going to go back to the whole reason, or the reasoning that was given to the public or to the world as to why this war started in the first place. Like I said, I am categorically not taking any sides, and I'm certainly not defending Iran. But the reason we were here is because of what they called an imminent threat. Now, many in the world don't believe that there was an imminent threat to the states. So you're asking me about what threats will be there to the states in the future. I don't know. I don't foresee any threats in the near future, because there weren't any imminent threats. Like I said, the whole rubric of this war was that there was an imminent threat to the United States. And congressmen within the states have also declared that they didn't see an imminent threat. So I can't answer that question, because the question is what threats will be there to the states. We didn't see any threat, or not me myself, like the world didn't see any threats. If I'm not mistaken, part of the Intelligence Committee member, Congressman Andrew, basically declared, and he was a part of the Security Council, and he basically said there was no imminent threat to the states. So I can't answer that question.
All right, there's no imminent threat, but then since you've been following as well the US very closely, what possible exit strategies do they have during such escalatory times?
Well, they could continue, or President Trump can come out within 24 hours and declare, like he has on many occasions, that he has won the war and just stop any further aggression or any...
Do you mean like during what happened during the 12-day war in June 2025?
Indeed, it was 12 days, and the administration came out and announced that that the war is over, the war's been won. This could happen any time now. Remember, this is costing the states and everyone else quite a lot of money. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, the reports that came out of Congress was this is costing the military $1 billion a day. So I'm pretty sure taxpayers in the states were not going to be happy about this prolongation, or as you called it, war of attrition, basically, to proceeding any further.
And what about Iran itself? I mean, Washington is saying that they could influence who lead Iran and changing let's say how the restructuring of Iran itself, is this a military objective and or strategic, an actual strategic objective,
Right.
or is it just a psychological warfare?
Right. Well, I think it's no longer an objective. Going back to the point of the mandates of the war that they've declared, and the
You
top.
have told me 4.
Yeah, the top
And
mandate.
they've only done 1.
No, there were 9 before, and the top one was change of regime.
Yeah.
And the summarized version now, as of yesterday, does not include change of regime. So the mandate is not to change regime. So if the mandate is not to change regime, then where do we go next? That means changing the regime is not a part of their priorities. So technically, it's not something that they need to wait for. Do they have an influence? Yeah, I believe they do have an influence, perhaps, on who takes over next. I'm pretty sure they would want a more amenable side running the country. Whether that's possible or realistic, I don't know if it's. If
Some analysts, though some analysts they compare the Venezuela model to the Iran model in terms rhetoric.
Yeah.
So do you see any similarity?
No,
I think Iran is more complex.
I disagree. I think it's categorically more complex. Unlike Venezuela, I think Iran has a lot of sectarian fault lines. Iran is not uniform in its population, so I don't think it's as simple as that. And if there is a vacuum in the leadership, I'm not quite sure who's going to fill it. I mean, one of the potential outcomes is that this could be a Sudan or Syria situation whereby you have multiple people in power that come from the National Guard, in which case that would be quite detrimental. So I don't know if this void, once it happens on the top leadership, will be filled by somebody that the whole country necessarily would agree on. So this is where it's very different to Venezuela, basically. That's my humble opinion.
Exactly. And we'll get back to you on that, but could you inform us more on the complexity of the regime change that the US saying they would want to do? Because I think it's far more complex, has far more complex implications and consequences than the US is saying, right? It's not like Venezuela, as you said. It has kind of complex institutions and
Yes.
restructuring and stuff like that. Could you tell us that the scenarios, how they look like?
Yeah, like I said, it's very difficult to predict right now. Like I said, the regional national army there that's in power today is still clearly in power, and unlike Venezuela, you know, we have so many sects in Iran. We've heard reports, unconfirmed, that the Israelis and the Americans have been talking to parts of the Kurds in the area.
Yes,
and then
they
you have
have been.
Yeah, and also parts of the Kurds in Iraq. Now, I don't think they want an independent Kurd state within a Kurdish state within Iran. You've got the Shiites, you've got the Sunnis. It's a complex blend. So I don't think controlling that type of population is going to be that easy.
So, and as well, what I was referring to, so a regime change scenario is not that easy as many are depicting, right?
Yes,
I'm talking about, let's say Venezuela now. Maybe it is more easier for a regime change than Iran, right? Because many people think it is, for example, a 24-day work.
Yeah, no. Definitely, it's not going to be a Venezuela situation where you just replace one prime minister with the other that roughly represents most of the population. I don't think that's the case in Iran. I think it'll be, and I think the fact that regime change has been removed from the mandate is precisely for that reason. I think the Americans have realized it's not that easy to change so-called regime, basically. No, I don't think so.
Do you see any similarities between the 12-day war and today? Or is it just that there's more parties included?
Well, unfortunately, we're involved now. I mean, the 12-day war was, as they called it, a strategic strike. And whether they achieved what they wanted to or not from a military point of view, we don't know. We certainly saw the media and the propaganda around it, etc. And luckily, it ended. The Americans and the American administration, sorry, to be specific, declared a win, and that was over. Today, I think it's spilled over. I mean, today there are 12 countries involved almost, and most of the Gulf is being bombarded by retaliations from Iran. So I think we can't draw parallels. We've gone beyond that point for sure.
Al-Udaid was hit last year, and it was hit this year. What's the difference? Why is it escalating heavily this year than last year? Is it because the US president has ended it? Is it for that pure reason?
No, I think on this occasion they've taken it a step further. If I'm not mistaken, half of the naval fleet of the United States, if I'm not mistaken, especially with the Abraham Lincoln arriving around Dubai area a few days back, that's almost 50% of the US naval arsenal is within the Gulf. This level of escalation has not been seen before. I don't even know if it's been seen during the Gulf War, to be completely honest, from a naval perspective. So I think the difference is that they have taken this certainly a step further. So where it's not that easy now to just pull back and say, we'll leave it at that. The Americans might leave it at that. I don't think the Israelis would want it to stop just yet. And the rhetoric we keep hearing from their politicians is that this is our only chance to change regime. Remember, the Israelis have been saying this, or Benjamin Netanyahu has been saying this since 1992. He's been advocating for war, threatening that Iran wishes, I can't speak for their wishes, but certainly from 1992 till now, 30 years later, every time he's in Congress, he's been advocating the same thing. He went to the UN 2012. You remember he was there with the picture of the bomb, saying in which street uranium is there, Iran is going to imminently hit everybody. So finally now, I think the Israeli administration has found an ear in the American administration, that is Trump, to actually take this all the way to the end.
Yeah, that's clear. Well, Doctor, we'll get back to you after we take one of the on-field reporters, Khalid Al-Hajji. Khalid Al-Hajji is with us from Souq Al-Mbarkiya. Khalid, if you are listening to me, please give us the latest updates.
Yeah, I can hear you, Abdurrahman. And welcome everyone to Souq Al-Mbarkiya. As you can see, it's like a normal day. Everyone is here shopping. All shops are open. Even restaurants are full. Parkings, you couldn't find a park to car your park, which is something usual for Al-Mbarkiya. You can't find a big difference between today and like 3 weeks, 4 weeks ago. It's exactly the same. No big difference in Al-Mbarkiya. People are shopping, people are happy, families you can see, even children, younger, older people. You can find everyone here in Souq Al-Mbarkiya having fun and shopping as usual. Nothing that I can say more than it's a usual day for Kuwaiti citizens here. And
you even did not notice anything unusual, right? Everything is running smoothly even since before the conflict, you said, because there's rumors that some shops have closed, and some rumors as well that the number of people is decreased. People are going out less. So you're saying the opposite is happening?
No. Yeah, exactly the opposite. You can see behind me how people are full in Souq Al-Mbarkiya. Even in front of me here, the restaurants part, it's full as usual. Parking is full as usual. So not a big difference between now and like a month, as I told you, before all the things happened. It's exactly the same. People are enjoying the weather. You know, it's the end of winter, so people are out having fun, eating, walking, even shopping. It's normal.
And Khalid, before we let you go, what message would you give the Kuwaitis and people residing here in Kuwait during such difficult times? Since you are on the scene right now, what message would you give them in terms of going out, for example, and in terms of listening, for example, to the official news and during such difficult times? Khalid.
First thing and the most important thing is take your information from official places only, because at the time you can find everything written on social media. This is just, I won't say fake news, but like news that will disrupt the peace that we are living in. So please know from where you get your information, from official sites. Watch our live coverage always, and yeah, everything is fine, everything is okay outside, it's peaceful, and I hope that you'll enjoy those last days of winter and everything is fine. Abdurrahman, that's it.
Khalid Al-Hajji, based in Souq Al-Mbarkiya, thank you and be safe.
الدفاع المدني على استعداد تام وجاهزية عالية ونعمل وفق خطط مدروسة ومحدثة باستمرار لمواجهة أي طارئ، ونتابع مع الجهات الحكومية كل ما يخص احتياجاتها لضمان استمرار نظام سير العمل وعجلة الإنتاج وسير الحياة الطبيعية، ونقول للجميع سلامتكم أولويتنا.
Back to you here in the studio with our guest Dr. Ziyad, and we continue our talk regarding the conflict. Dr. Ziyad, before we move to other segments, let's finally end the segment we were speaking about. Ultimately, this war, as we were speaking about Washington and Iran, to which end are we reaching? Is it a military victory? Is it a rebalance of, for example, redefining the balance of powers? Or, for example, is it a regime change? What is it exactly, do you think?
Again, it's very difficult to predict, again, drawing parallels from the early days of COVID. Whether there's going to be an exact regime change or not, especially that this is not a priority now for the states, I don't know. There's definitely, the world order is definitely changing, that's for sure, within the region. And I mean, not that we didn't know this before, but the power within the Middle East still remains, by proxy or directly, with Israel, whether we like it or not. It's very, very clear. Because today this is a unilateral decision that was taken by the US to go to war, which was not really supported by many, not even congressmen within the states. So where the power lies today and where the final decisions is and the control, it is definitely with the US, with the current US administration. Definitely things have changed in terms of the abilities of the Middle Eastern countries to defend themselves in the future. This has taken a toll on the economies and on the military capabilities of certain countries, notably obviously Iran and Iraq. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing remains to be seen. So it is very difficult, and I don't think anyone can predict where this is going to go, to be completely honest.
And now moving to the security, Gulf security and regional stability, to what extent this escalation test the security architecture for the GCC states, since it has been a long time since we suffered from such difficult times?
Correct. Look, this point I say with pride, and this is me talking as a citizen, and we're discussing this in Kuwait Times not long ago, also with friends and family. Alhamdulillah, you know, I'm quite proud of the Gulf and our resilience. I've said this many, many times, but we really, truly are resilient. I mean, we're known for being one of the sort of most peaceful countries in the world, and we're trying to show the world that we intend to stay that way. And the visits that we saw on TV, be it from the Saudi leadership, the Kuwaiti leadership here, Qatar, Bahrain, UAE, with our leaders and our administrations, walking around town, trying to reassure people. It's really nice. I'm comforted, to be honest. We've been through a lot over the last couple of days. We are very critical of ourselves normally, but this is one of those times where we have to say, look, we're very proud of the GCC.
Done a great job.
We've done a great job, alhamdulillah. Hopefully this will not change.
And how can the GCC states maintain the stability, whether it be politically, economically, or from any aspects during such times?
I think it's what's happening currently. I mean, the GCC states, we've had our differences, like any brother and brother would have. Yeah. But when it comes to situations like this, you've seen the GCC states come together, be it as governments officially, or even you hear anecdotes about, you know, I'm sure you've called your friends and family within the Qatar, Saudi,
exactly.
etc.
Yeah.
We're a tight-knit community, and the GCC, this is a lesson for the GCC that we definitely need each other. And you know, like I said, I'm quite proud of how the Gulf states have taken this so far.
And diplomatically speaking, how can we prevent any escalation as a one GCC standing together?
Right. Look, we've never been a militarily strong group of countries. Of course, we're small. There's nothing wrong with that. We've been very politically savvy, especially Kuwait, to be honest. And I think the GCC, most notably these days, Kuwait, Qatar, and Saudi, have shown a lot of political savviness in our relationships with Europe and with the States and with most countries, to be honest. And I think we continue to do the same. To remain a peaceful set of countries and maintaining good politics with the West, as we always have. I think that's our strength, basically, our diplomacy and our approach to peace and avoiding conflict, as we always have.
And the people, ordinary people, do play a role in preventing the conflict as well, right? In coordinating with the government.
Yes, like I said, I think what our governments are doing is just reflective of our own nature. You know, the Gulf states, Khalijiyin, we're definitely not people that like conflict. That's for sure.
And now that's for the GCC security and regional stability. Let's talk more on global economic and, of course, trade implications. The global economy, obviously, it has been affected by several things, whether it be the COVID-19, and then we've got the tariffs, and we've seen how the effects of tariffs, and we've seen it not only from reports from World Bank and other formal institutions, but also we've seen it from the Fed chairman, Jerome Powell, as he has been also always mentioning the effect of tariffs. Now, speaking of this conflict, there is of course disruptions to supply chains, to important routes, Strait of Hormuz, let's say maybe the Red Sea and others. How can the global economy remain resilient during such times? Now, we'll get to more local discussions, but how about the global economy?
Well, obviously, like I said, no one is really a winner at war. And if I can start locally, well, actually, like I've just stated before, this is costing the US military $1 billion a day. Reports that have just come out recently says that this is costing Israel about $4 billion a day. We've seen oil prices. I'm not an economist, so I hope my friends, the economists, and yourself will forgive me if my information is not as accurate as yours. But we've seen oil prices already hit the 90s. We've seen this affect consumers in the States, where gas prices have gone up by 30 to 40 cents on the gallon. So
in Europe,
in the States,
and in Europe, spiked more than 50%.
Okay, so you know, this is hitting consumers, and consumer sentiment is definitely been affected by this. So on an economic, this will lead to inflation. Of course, one would say that oil prices going up is probably good for us, but in reality, there's no point if we can't actually ship out of the Hormuz Strait. And a recent report I was watching, if I'm not mistaken, on BBC or Sky, states that we might, and again, I hope my colleagues here and the ministers in the KOC and etc. will forgive me if this information is not 100% accurate, our ability to store the oil that we're producing might come to an end, basically, in which case we would have to start reducing production. If I'm not mistaken,
I believe they're at a wait-and-see approach, the oil tankers right now.
Because there's no, I mean, we're producing it, and apparently to slow down oil production is a bit of a task. And if I'm not mistaken, like Saudi has 90 days capability of storage, Kuwait 2 weeks, if I'm not mistaken, Qatar 60, something along those lines. So
that's specific dates for each country,
So obviously this has significant economic implications, and the longer it takes, so far, alhamdulillah, I have to say, our Boursa has been quite resilient in Kuwait to look at our economy.
I noticed,
Considering we're at war, we are, you know, the changes have been, compared to others, alhamdulillah, quite resilient.
Well,
and I hope that stays that way.
Exactly. And we'll get back, Dr. Ziyad, thanks for the evaluative answers. We'll get back to this fruitful discussions, but after this break, the viewers, a quick break and come back.
الإدارة العامة للدفاع المدني على استعداد تام وجاهزية عالية، ونعمل وفق خطط مدروسة ومحدثة باستمرار لمواجهة أي طارئ، ونتابع مع الجهات الحكومية كل ما يخص احتياجاتها لضمان استمرار نظام سير العمل وعجلة الإنتاج وسير الحياة الطبيعية، ونقول للجميع سلامتكم أولويتنا.
في ظل الأوضاع الراهنة، معكم اليوم وزارة التجارة والصناعة المعنية في ملف الأمن الغذائي. اليوم نطمنكم بأن الوضع التمويني مستقر تماماً، ولا يوجد أي نقص في المواد الغذائية الأساسية. كذلك حركة الأسواق طبيعية، والسلع متوفرة في نقاط البيع والمخازن بشكل منتظم. إنتاج المياه في المصانع المحلية مستمر على مدار الساعة لضمان تلبية احتياجات الجميع. سلاسل الإمداد تعمل بشكل طبيعي وسلس، ولا توجد أي عوائق في تدفق السلع إلى الأسواق. كما أن الأسواق المركزية وجميع نقاط البيع تعمل بشكل طبيعي، والجمعيات التعاونية تواصل نشاطها المعتاد دون أي تأثير. ونؤكد على الجاهزية الكاملة لخطط الطوارئ مع استمرار فرق الرقابة التجارية في متابعة الأسواق ميدانيا بشكل يومي لضمان استقرار الأسعار وتوفر السلع الأساسية فيها. لذلك اليوم احنا نطمنكم ونبشركم بأن الأمور طيبة إن شاء الله ويحافظ الله.
بتوجيهات مباشرة ومتابعة حثيثة ومتواصلة من قبل مجلس الوزراء ووزيرة الشؤون الاجتماعية الدكتورة أمثال الحويلة، سارعت وزارة الشؤون إلى وضع الخطط المسبقة التي تهدف من خلالها إلى المحافظة على مستويات المخزون الاستراتيجي من السلع المواد الغذائية والاستهلاكية، ولضمان سلاسة وسهولة تدفقها إلى الأسواق التعاونية. قامت وزارة الشؤون ممثلة بقطاع التعاون بتشكيل 6 فرق ميدانية بواقع فريق لكل محافظة، وذلك للمتابعة اليومية للتأكد من كفاية المخزون الاستراتيجي. إن هذا العمل هو ثمرة تنسيق وتخطيط مسبق مع جهات الدولة المختصة التي وضعت لضمان استدامة الأمن الغذائي في مختلف الأوقات، ودامت الكويت بحفظ الله ورعايته.
تؤكد جمعية الهلال الأحمر الكويتي جاهزيتها للاستجابة للطوارئ والكوارث في ظل الأوضاع الجيوسياسية الحاصلة في المنطقة. جمعية الهلال الأحمر الكويتي تعمل من ضمن منظومة إنسانية متكاملة مع مؤسسات دولة الكويت من حيث الاستجابة السريعة وتجهيز المتطوعين من ضمن أفرقة مختلفة للاستجابة للطوارئ في سرعة قصوى. يعد متطوعين جمعية الهلال الأحمر الكويتي من المتطوعين اللي تم تدريبهم مكثفاً في الإسعافات الأولية والاستجابة للكوارث والاستجابة الميدانية. تؤكد جمعية الهلال الأحمر الكويتي جاهزيتها الميدانية ورفع جاهزيتها من حيث الاستجابة للطوارئ في حالات اللي يتم ندائها. بالنسبة للمخزون الاستراتيجي لجمعية الهلال الأحمر الكويتي، فإحنا على أتم الاستعداد للاستجابة في حال النداء من قبل مؤسسات حكومة دولة الكويت.
7 days after the conflict began with a large-scale strike targeting strategic sites inside Iran, the war has rapidly expanded beyond a single battlefield, triggering waves of missile attacks, military alerts across the region, and growing international concern of a possibility of a wider regional conflict. As strikes and counter-strikes continue, global powers are closely watching developments while diplomatic efforts struggle to contain a crisis that could reshape the security landscape of the Middle East. More details of this report.
As the war enters its 7th day, the Middle East finds itself facing one of the most dangerous escalations in years. What began as a sudden military operation has rapidly evolved into a widening confrontation with regional and international implications. The conflict began on February 28th with large-scale airstrikes targeting sensitive military and strategic sites inside Iran. The attacks triggered a nationwide state of alert across Iran's military and security institutions. In response, Tehran announced the start of what it described as a strategic retaliation phase, launching waves of ballistic missiles and drones towards targets inside the occupied territories, as well as American military bases across the region. As the exchanges intensified, the Arab Gulf countries in the region reported falling debris following interception operations, prompting governments to raise security readiness and reinforce protective measures around vital infrastructure and strategic facilities. During the latest developments, Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps warned that Tehran may soon deploy new and more advanced weapon systems that have not yet been used in the conflict, suggesting that the capabilities demonstrated so far represent only part of Iran's military arsenal. Politically, the crisis has triggered intense international diplomatic activity. Western capitals have begun to clarify their positions, with Britain stating it does not rule out joining military strikes if the situation escalates further, while analysts suggest France could also participate in defensive military actions if Allied forces or regional stability come under greater threat. At the same time, the United States has reinforced its military presence across the region, deploying additional air defense systems and naval assets in the Gulf and the Eastern
في ظل الأوضاع الراهنة، معكم اليوم وزارة التجارة والصناعة المعنية في ملف الأمن الغذائي. اليوم نطمنكم بأن الوضع التمويني مستقر تماما ولا يوجد أي نقص في المواد الغذائية الأساسية. كذلك حركة الأسواق طبيعية والسلع متوفرة في نقاط البيع والمخازن بشكل منتظم. إنتاج المياه في المصانع المحلية مستمر على مدار الساعة لضمان تلبية احتياجات الجميع. سلاسل الإمداد تعمل بشكل طبيعي وسلس، ولا توجد أي عوائق في تدفق السلع إلى الأسواق، كما أن الأسواق المركزية وجميع نقاط البيع تعمل بشكل طبيعي، والجمعيات التعاونية تواصل نشاطها المعتاد دون أي تأثير. ونؤكد على الجاهزية الكاملة لخطط الطوارئ مع استمرار فرق الرقابة التجارية في متابعة الأسواق ميدانيا بشكل يومي لضمان استقرار الأسعار وتوفر السلع الأساسية فيها. لذلك اليوم احنا نطمنكم ونبشركم بأن الأمور طيبة إن شاء الله ويحافظ الله.
We are still giving you the latest regarding the war that has been happening, the heinous strikes on the GCC nations, and with our Dr. Ziyad right here in the studio. Doctor, we are back with you, and obviously, if I may, Doctor, there is a halt in Strait of Hormuz the past few days, as they have said that the Strait of Hormuz is closed. To many, this seems to be something new. We have seen this before, I mean, in 2019, I believe, and we have seen it in the tanker war as well. So this is not new unless it goes into a prolonged escalation between the US and Iran and Israeli occupation, obviously. But Doctor, I want to mention a few things to make a point. The Strait of Hormuz has been affected now more than 70%. Some reports say 70%, and some reports say that at some days it has been affected by 90% or a little bit more in terms of the oil flows, okay? Because there goes oil and liquefied natural gas. And Qatar itself has been, Qatar's energy production has been halted, which spiked, as you said, the energy prices in the US and of course in Europe more than 50%. So we as Kuwait and Qatar do not have bypass alternatives where we can move our oil and liquefied natural gas somewhere else. Now UAE has one, has been hit sadly. Saudi Arabia has one, which is the Saudi pipeline, but it can only move maybe 3 to 4 million barrels a day, which is 20% of what Strait of Hormuz can move. Okay, so that's not much, but it never peaked to that point. The most it peaked, I think, is 1 to 1.5 million barrels a day. So considering these points, Doctor, do you think if this situation prolongs and goes for a long time, do you think we could see a reshape of routes in terms of the global energy markets and oil vessels and tankers?
Well, I think, to be honest, they are somewhat limited, to be honest. It's not like the maritime routes and disruptions that are there are significant. We have seen this before. We've seen this in COVID, obviously for different reasons, basically. And the cost, I've been talking to a lot of my colleagues from the private sector, etc. You're seeing it today. The cost of transport, logistics prices have gone up exponentially. Although the oil prices haven't gone up that exponentially, but logistics have. I don't think that's very sustainable. Whether the conflict, that's my humble opinion, of course, but whether the conflict continues for a lot longer than we anticipate, I think the Hormuz Strait is something that the international community will have to address. Like I said, when we start slowing down our production gradually in the Gulf, that's not only bad from an economical perspective, it's also bad, my understanding, from a geological type of implication as well. It's not a switch you just flick off and stop production of oil, basically. So I think alternatives, there aren't that many. I think
especially for us, we don't have alternatives.
Especially for us, exactly. Yeah. In an ironic state, I think recently, if I'm not mistaken, the US administration has allowed Russia to supply India with oil directly, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, you're much more versed, but this is something ironic that I just heard recently, somewhat hypocritical as well.
Okay.
But I don't. I think the Hormuz Strait is something that needs to be addressed for multiple reasons. I don't think that needs to be addressed perhaps before the rest of the conflict.
So, what possible scenarios would you see for the oil prices in the coming future if this sustains at least?
Well, simple maths and logic dictates that oil prices keep going up. But like I said, we've already seen that. That's already happened. We've seen the impact Whether we can tolerate even higher prices, I don't know, yet to be seen. But like I said earlier, with more than or almost 50% of the US naval capability in the Gulf, I think that's an area that they'd want to control. We're seeing vessels being escorted by US military leaving the Hormuz Strait, etc. And I think that's something that they need to ensure from an economical perspective is well controlled.
And Doctor, we know that in markets generally and in businesses, uncertainty is a key pillar. I mean, in all markets, whether be it in stock market or businesses and business development or markets generally. So given the escalating geopolitical tensions, how would you evaluate the investor sentiment or investor at least confidence in the energy markets?
Well, I think it goes the same with the consumer sentiment that we've seen already with the prices and the consumer market. I think it's pretty much the same. There's a lot of hesitation. Like I said, if we were to take it locally first and have a look, we've been relatively resilient. Our bourse closed down, I think, for a day or so, wisely so. Yeah. And then the impact that we saw was not as dramatic at all.
Exactly.
I think people accepted the situation, taken time to understand it. And I don't know if it's a matter of coincidence or not, but before every major strike that the US takes, it always seems to happen on a weekend when the US markets are closed. I think it could be intentional to allow people or the event to sink in gradually so that there's not a sudden impact on the markets. Obviously, this has only been 7 days.
From the good side, Doctor, it's actually good to happen during the weekend because it decreases the volatility.
Yeah, exactly.
That happens.
And I'm fairly certain.
But you could be right that it could be.
I think it's intentional.
Intentional.
I think
for some reasons. Some people make a lot of money during the weekend in that aspect.
I'm sure a lot of people have made money through crises, but I think it is probably smart. And look, Trump is a businessman first and foremost, and I think it is not a coincidence that these things take place on a Friday evening to allow the market time to digest so that the impact is not sudden fluctuation. But obviously, if this prolongs further and further, I think it will eventually have an impact on the market.
Okay. Now, Doctor, finally, in our economic segment, could you tell us more about the rising and what impact could this have on not only the oil prices, as you have already talked about that, and the increase of oil prices. Tell us more about inflation, because this will definitely reflect on the consumer sentiment and, of course, the consumer himself or herself.
Yes. Well, a prolonged war will obviously create this. We've talked about inflation, and of course that being the worrying aspect. Sticking to our local market so far, alhamdulillah, it's been 7 days, been almost going on to the 8th day. So far we've not seen a lot of it. The government has taken obviously strict, good rules to ensure that nobody capitalizes out of this. And we heard from your report, I think it's Mohammed, etc., that prices have been fixed.
Mohammed Sawak, yes, he mentioned.
Nobody is allowed to capitalize on this. There's no state of panic. So I think locally we're dealing with this quite well.
Especially with the regulations, strict regulations for prices to be stable.
And I think that's very good. It prevents panic buying. It prevents people from capitalizing on a crisis.
Keeps inflation stable.
Which is not ethical as well at the same time. Look, I have big faith as well in the private sector. I think the government should draw a lot on the private sector for its support. Logistically, I'm talking to a lot of my colleagues that run these businesses. They have a lot of capabilities. They're willing to help in every sector, be it the healthcare sector, the F&B, food, etc. I think the private sector can be a good support to the government in times of crisis, basically.
Exactly. Yeah, well, that was informative of the economy segment. Doctor, now the media and, of course, the information warfare. The media plays a big role. Yeah. Now, we have spoken about media a little bit in our local segment, but getting into more details, how is the media a key pillar in this battle in terms of the battle itself, rather than just a transmitter or just depicting the events as they are? How is it?
Look, I'm not just saying this because I am a sort of a family of Kuwait Times or heavily involved in the media, but the media is, and we've seen this over the last few years, the media is a major pillar in any conflict, or not just in conflicts, of course, but specifically in conflicts or wars. media, the dispensing of information is absolutely vital. It really is. And I think the onus is on us to ensure that we are responsible. Alhamdulillah, I think the local press has been historically responsible in Kuwait. So I think we do have a responsibility to ensure that we are portraying the right image and the right content.
We'll be back to you, but we have to take this break and come back to you. Dear viewers, a break.
الحرس الوطني قادة وقوات دائما على استعداد وجاهزية تامة لحماية الوطن بالتعاون مع زملاء السلاح في وزارتي الدفاع والداخلية وقوة الإطفاء العام، وتقديم الدعم والإسناد لكافة جهات الدولة، خاصة في أوقات الأزمات والطوارئ. ونسأل الله أن يحفظ وطننا الكويت من كل مكروه في ظل قيادته الرشيدة.
تؤكد وزارة الكهرباء والماء والطاقة المتجددة بأن عمليات توليد الطاقة الكهربائية وتحلية المياه تسير وفق الخطط التشغيلية المعتادة، وتؤكد الوزارة على جاهزيتها التامة للتعامل مع أي طارئ من خلال خطط متكاملة تتضمن الإجراءات الواجب اتباعها لاستمرارية الكهرباء والماء. وتوفر لدى الوزارة كفاءات وطنية مؤهلة وعلى أعلى درجات الاستعداد لتفعيل هذه الخطط متى ما دعت الحاجة. والمخزون الاستراتيجي من المياه العذبة في البلاد في ازدياد، إلى جانب توفر مخزون من المياه الجوفية، مما يعزز قدرة المنظومة الوطنية على الصمود والتعامل مع مختلف الظروف.
الإدارة العامة للدفاع المدني على استعداد تام وجاهزية عالية، ونعمل وفق خطط مدروسة ومحدثة باستمرار لمواجهة أي طارئ، ونتابع مع الجهات الحكومية كل ما يخص احتياجاتها لضمان استمرار نظام سير العمل وعجلة الإنتاج وسير الحياة الطبيعية، ونقول للجميع سلامتكم أولويتنا.
And now we're back with our Dr. Ziyad right here in the studio. We will continue our talk for the media segment. Doctor, yes, as you were saying, the media plays a big role and a big role, especially in this battle. Doctor, you have informed us a bit of its key role in this battle. Could you draw a similarity between media's role in COVID times and today's times? Is it different, or is it the same in terms of the concept itself, that there is, of course, framing, there is, of course, misunderstanding, there is circulation of rumors?
Yeah, absolutely. Parallels can definitely be drawn. The right amount of information reaching the right cohort of people is vital. And we saw this with COVID, with the, unfortunately, even some certain states. I recall, actually, the US president at the time dispensing all sorts of medical information against all known medical bodies in the world and their advice. So I think the role of the media is absolutely pivotal in ensuring our security, ensuring public opinion today worldwide depends, as we've seen with Gaza and the recent things that have happened. People relied on media, different platforms, for their information. And this can even sway in a war like this. This can sway public opinion internationally, and hopefully in a positive way, so we get to a resolution of this conflict.
And in what way do you think there is framing of war that is happening during such time?
Well, it depends on which media you're looking at. And I hope that we're non-biased here in the Gulf, definitely in Kuwait, well, definitely in Kuwait Times. The unfortunate thing is, if you're at home, if you can just watch two different channels within the States, you'll see how the same story could be taken in completely different ways. One to appease a different cohort of people, and the other one to antagonize them. So not much can be done with that, unfortunately. My advice is for the public to be informed and try to avoid a lot of the social media platforms that are not vetted, basically. I mean, to be honest, it's a bit difficult, because even if you listen to the BBC or CNN, they're both vetted organizations, but occasionally you still hear conflicting views with the same story, or how the story is portrayed, how the narrative is portrayed. From a Kuwaiti perspective, I hope we stick to our narrative, and again, the advice is to stick to recognized, legitimate media outlets, basically.
And Doctor, speaking of the Kuwaiti narrative, social media platforms, media itself plays a vital role and a big role in terms of shaping one's perception.
Right.
Okay. So how have we been doing in shaping people's perception? So we differ in terms of regulations. So GCC nations have different regulations and media regulations, right? So do you think that the public has been more aware than any other country? Not necessarily GCC nations.
Yeah.
I'm just speaking generally. How has the media been doing so far the past days?
Well, I'm a part of the media here, so obviously I have to say we've been doing quite well. Historically speaking, we've been self-regulated. You know, there were the days that you're much younger than me. I think there were the days when we had regulators from the government. We've not had that for 30 years. Our media is wise. We are self-regulated, and we're usually in keeping with the government's or our leaders' sort of opinion that, you know, we bring about peace and not instigate any unnecessary, you know, إزعاج على قولتهم. I have to find that word in English.
Yeah, confusion. As in like,
so the problem is you can't isolate the Kuwaiti public from international media. Today, on the iPhone or whatever, we're exposed to absolutely every media outlet in the world. So we just have to be cautious to pick and choose and try not to be influenced. The American media today, which is, I think, a lot of it controlled by the current administration, is pushing a certain narrative forward. Obviously, they have to justify the war. And, you know, I hope we stick to the narratives that we've been expressing here.
As you have mentioned, the credible information and stuff like that, in a world flooded with information and flooded with media panels and sectors and, of course, channels, how can someone, speaking at least locally, how can we differentiate between credible information and those who circulate political propaganda or circulate rumors and others? At least in a few words.
I smile because I'm sure my advertising team would say stick to Kuwait Times and KTV2.
Obviously, yeah.
I think
generally speaking,
I think we leave it to the good judgment of each household. Basically, be guided by what our organizations are saying, our official organizations are saying. Seriously, our leadership is wise when it comes to this. That's my only advice. It's difficult. You can't switch off certain outlets. So I think take what our current state is saying as the main platform. Avoid all the other platforms that are just not vetted in any form or way, basically.
And can the media sustain being a vital role in war and be controlled to be positive and not negative? Because it could be used both ways. So if the war drags on and on, can it be sustained to be positively regulated and shaping one's perspective in a good way?
I think in Kuwait we can, yeah. Every protagonist in a war has the media or attempts to have the media on their side. It is akin to these ballistic missiles you're seeing, and just as important, basically, because they need to justify what they're doing. All protagonists on both sides of any war. So I think the media, like I said, is here to stay, and yes, it can sustain as long as the conflict is there. You know, we'll be there covering it to the best of our ability and try very hard not to be biased. We are slightly biased, I have to admit, because like I said today, we are sitting as bystanders who are innocent bystanders to this, I would say, atrocities. So it's very difficult not to be biased and not to be upset by what's happening to our country.
That's how media works.
Yeah, that should have no role in this. Right. But you know, I think keeping a calm head and trying to portray what's happening in a as unbiased as we can is probably useful.
And now, away from media, moving to the US and inside the US internally, how can the White House sustain congressional support and people's support if this war drags on?
I don't think they can. I mean, today, this is unprecedented. We've not had a sitting president that has done this before, I think, in the history of the United States. Now, the funny thing is that what's currently happening with the administration is, and by the way, I have to be clear, I am critical of the administration and not the people. So this is who I'm criticizing. Today we have a president that takes action and then 4 days later goes to get congressional approval. So from a legal perspective, again, I'm not a lawyer, but from a legal perspective, technically speaking, a lot have said that this war is illegal. So I don't know how long there'll be internal support within the states of this current president, who seems to be above the law to a certain extent, and keeping this war going, especially that this is taking this toll on the American taxpayer. I mean, like I said, $1 billion a day, and it's only been 5 days. So I don't think this will be sustainable. I think they'll want to come to a resolution soon.
And Doctor, that was clear. We'll get back to you, but just let us take Mohammed Al-Awadi, who's with us on an on-field report. Mohammed Al-Awadi, if you can hear me, tell us where you are exactly, and please tell us the latest updates you have.
Good evening, Abdurrahman. Good evening to our viewers. Yes, I can hear you. I'm at Kuwait Liberation Tower in Kuwait City. Earlier today, there was a site inspection, tour and visit by His Excellency, the Minister of the State for Communication Affairs, Dr. Omar Al-Umar. The purpose of the visit, I believe, was to inspect the level of readiness for any emergency that might come up or any escalation that might come up. The visit included a tour with other state officials and government representatives.
And yes, Mohammed,
yes,
go on.
Yes, no, go ahead. As far as I know, he was satisfied with the level of readiness. He inspected certain facilities in the Liberation Tower here in Kuwait City. I'm sure he will pass on anything that is not up to level, to ensure that it is satisfactory.
And Mohammed, since it's the weekend, what is the atmosphere from where you are?
We are in a commercial sector in Kuwait City, so since it's the weekend, there is no foot traffic. There is only there is hardly any foot traffic here, Abdurrahman. There are cars only going about their business. So it's very quiet where I am right now. Earlier, I was at the Kuwait Central Blood Bank, and I was very happy to see both citizens and residents there donating blood. Not that there is an urgency now, but just like His Excellency's visit to the Liberation Tower, it's all part of a plan for preparations in case things escalate, that we are ready for those scenarios.
So what you are telling the viewers is that people are coordinating with the government and government officials and contributing to getting through the conflict as safe as possible, and also the panic and fear, such as we see the rumors circulating, the panic and fear is not there, right?
Yes, and on top of that, the government officials are on top of things during the day, during the evenings, all throughout the day, 24/7, inspecting, re-evaluating, reassessing, and making sure that everything is, in case things do escalate, inshallah they don't, and we return to peace, that if things do escalate, we are prepared on all levels and all fronts. Of course, we remind our viewers once again to rely on reliable sources of information. If you're in the state of Kuwait, rely on the Ministry of Interior and Ministry of Defense, the Ministry of Health, CGC, those official accounts on Instagram and Twitter, Kuwait News, Channel 1 and 2.
And Mohammed, the past days you have been to different places. You've been to hospitals, you've been to Suq al-Mbarkiya, you've been to Liberation Tower, and to, of course, Blood Bank. Now, tell us, what message would you give to Kuwaitis before we let you go regarding the atmosphere that you have witnessed the past days, and what short message would you give them?
The message I would give citizens and residents, the older ones, they should know that under the wide leadership, under the wise leadership, and with all the operations that the government are doing at the moment, things are in order. There is a plan, and there is evidence of this. Alhamdulillah, all these attacks, the missile attacks and the drones, we have seen how effective our air defense system is, and thanks to the army and of course the leadership. So that's for the adults. Rest assured that the government is doing everything it needs, and they are planning ahead, and we have the best people in the right places. For the children, for the younger ones, it's a responsibility for those parents and the adults to let them know, to assure the young ones that it is safe, not to panic, and this is the message that I would give.
Mohammed Al-Awadi, based in Kuwait Liberation Tower, be safe and thank you.
منظومة الاتصالات بالكويت شغالة بكفاءة عالية ولله الحمد، والهيئة العامة للاتصالات وتقنية المعلومات مستعدة لأي طارئ لا قدر الله. وفي ظل التوترات اللي تمر فيها المنطقة فعلنا خطط الطوارئ وعززنا التعاون مع الجهات المعنية عشان نضمن استقرار الخدمات الرقمية وسرعة الاستجابة لأي مستجد. الوضع تحت المتابعة وكل الجهات المختصة على أتم الجاهزية. عسى الله يحفظ الكويت وأهلها.
الإدارة العامة للدفاع المدني على استعداد تام وجاهزية عالية، ونعمل وفق خطط مدروسة ومحدثة باستمرار لمواجهة أي طارئ، ونتابع مع الجهات الحكومية كل ما يخص احتياجاتها لضمان استمرار نظام سير العمل وعجلة الإنتاج وسير الحياة الطبيعية، ونقول للجميع سلامتكم أولويتنا.
Now we're back with our guest, Dr. Ziyad, right here in the studio, and we continue, Dr. Ziyad, our talk regarding the internal in the United States. You have been telling us around the circulating discussions on how long can the White House sustain congressional, of course, acceptance and public acceptance around the war if it drags on, and you have told us on that. Now, a question arises out of this question. Can this have an effect on the mid-election on Donald Trump, U.S. President?
I think so. I think so.
In what sense?
Look, people, I mean, the States is a big place and the population is huge. Maybe fair to say that like most countries, a lot of people are not politically inclined, as is the situation with most. But when do people start getting affected? When it starts to affect them or impact them directly. So maybe your average American might not really care what happens in the Middle East to a certain extent, but the day he has to pay 30 or 40 cents more in the gallon, that's when he becomes interested. Like, why am I paying more? The day that taxation goes up, we've seen a lot of stories come up, a lot of reports on conflicts within both parties, within congressmen, and in all the media outlets there, of people starting to show only after 7 days their discontent for this. They're saying that this is not our war. We should not be financing Israel's war. I think the longer this takes, the more it takes, the more its toll will take on the taxpayer. Then it becomes personal to them. Not necessarily out of interest to what's happening here in the Gulf, but out of their own self-preservation. And this rhetoric or this narrative of why am I paying for somebody else's war, we're starting to see it a lot more. To be honest, it's a valid question. So I think it will start to affect ratings and his popularity as this progresses.
And there is a World Cup coming up in the US. Isn't it?
There's a World Cup coming up, and we're already hearing stories about certain countries not participating, etc. I mean, the question is today, is the president's popularity now lower than before the war? Because as you know, coincidentally, again, this is all on the backdrop of the Epstein files. Now, there are all those conspiracy theorists that say that this is just a distraction from that, which is quite significant because these files have actually led to a few convictions and a few people being sort of legally questioned across the world, actually, not just in the States. And if I'm not mistaken, there was a recent Department of Justice report that was just withdrawn that had an allegation directed towards President Trump. Obviously, this war is a big distraction.
So it could affect as well if it prolongs, maybe it could affect even the World Cup itself, but nobody knows because we can't judge from this angle. So what about the war itself? Could it be a burden to the internal U.S. administration, politically or economically? As you said, you mentioned about the economic side, about the $1 billion report, but even politically and economically and culturally as well, as a burden.
Yeah, no, I think so. I'll just reiterate what I said earlier on. The day it starts to affect your average American in any shape or form, this will become an issue for them that they'd like answers to. So I don't think it is necessarily a good thing for Trump that this is prolonged. for sure. I don't know how he's going to try to bring it to an end, and obviously he wants to bring it to a positive end where he appears to be the winner at the end of all of this. But I think time will tell.
And what about the Gulf nations and their relations with the United States? What about their relations? How is it going to affect it? How is this escalation going to affect it?
Well, I don't want to speak out of tone, obviously, and I don't represent our leaders, but obviously it goes without saying that this is sensitive, not just from an economic point of view. I think we've always maintained a good relationship with the United States as Gulf states, and I think, again, the longer this is prolonged, I believe, like even just ourselves, not necessarily our leadership, will start to question whether our interest here is at heart or not. Because at the end of the day, this is impacting us directly, economically, physically, and I think we would expect that our allies or our political friends need to intervene to ensure that this does not go on any further. So if this is prolonged, and the current status quo is prolonged, where we are innocent bystanders and we are being bombed on a daily, this will probably create some rift between us and the States, but obviously I'm not in a position to.
Doctor, tell us more about the international support. We've received tremendous international support from European countries and others. How do you interpret that?
Well, this goes without saying. Historically speaking, the Gulf has been a great friend and an ally to most countries in the world, to be honest. And this is why you see the Gulf states thrive. This is why you see a lot of Westerners come and live in the Gulf, be it Kuwait, Saudi, Qatar, Bahrain, or UAE. It's a safe haven. It's a relatively good tax haven for them. You know, the things that we pride ourselves with, other than our hospitality, is obviously is the peace one gets here and the safety. So our relationship with the West is great historically, and we want it to continue. So it goes without saying, and it's not surprising that we get a lot of support from all these Western European countries or countries from all over the world, because we are known to be peaceful nations, and they see that we've been drawn into this unwillingly. So it goes, you know, I'm not surprised, obviously.
And could this international support help, let's say, diminish at least or prevent any further escalation?
Honestly, I'm going to be a cynic and say no, because in today's world, I don't think anyone has a significant influence on the U.S. administration. I say the U.S. administration. I don't think anyone has any influence over President Trump. So while we have that support, I don't think anyone can actually physically alter the strategy that he has, whatever that strategy may be in the future.
What do you think would have influence over the U.S. administrations? Is it something could be, let's say, internal? For example, we know that the some legislative obstacles were removed to allow President Trump to take his actions. So, isn't that a good thing for him?
Well, quite recently, actually, this thing was blocked in Congress recently. Actually, would have put some restraints on what he could do, but the vote went the other way, where basically he is now unappeased. He can do pretty much what he wants so far. So until now, you know, I don't see any other external force, with the exception, with the exception of Israel, that can influence him in changing the course of action, basically.
But obviously you're speaking...
Maybe when his term ends, then obviously that's another, but I think we still have another three years of his term, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, but obviously you were saying that it's different to the 12-day war, and probably the occupation wouldn't end here until they get what they want from Iran, because it doesn't seem to be the mandates that you were speaking of, which is destroying the military capabilities. Or
I mean, maybe you can answer this question today. If let's say the States decides to end this today and declare victory for whatever reason, will the Iranian counterpart stop? I don't know, because from what I'm seeing is that what's happened there with their supreme leader being technically removed,
it seemed
will they want vengeance, or you know, I don't know.
It's one of the mandates, but it seemed like a trigger.
Well, it was one of the mandates, and now it's over. But like I said, will cessation of all this military activity from the U.S. and Israel, will that mean that Iran will stop automatically? now? Is it too late or is it not? You know, will they want to retaliate further? I don't know.
Do you think they'd be open for negotiations between each other, at least the three parties?
Well, common sense and good judgment always dictates that they should be open to negotiations, and I certainly hope that that's the case. Whether they will do it today remains to be seen, to be honest.
Last time they negotiated, they struck each other.
Well, actually, to be exact, last time they were negotiating, and then the U.S. struck, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And they were still in the midst of negotiations. Like I said, the U.S. administration now is a little bit unpredictable, and one cannot assume what their next or predict what their next move will be, to be honest. I think that's the biggest outlier in this particular conflict, is the current U.S. administration.
Do you, in terms of negotiations, do you see negotiations as one of the reasons or potential outcomes, at least? Because sometimes they do mention negotiations that it is on the table.
Well, I hope so, because the American press seems to be announcing that they are open to negotiations. I think the U.S. administration has said that they are open to negotiations, and that these negotiations have been refused by the Iranian counterpart. But at the same time, the Iranians have said that we've not been offered this line of negotiations. Again, this is the two medias conflicting each other. Like I said, I certainly hope that good judgment prevails at the end, because this is surely not good for either party, and certainly not good for us as bystanders.
Do you think, Doctor, do you see the strikes that have been happening, the heinous strikes that have been happening in the GCC as a non-ending strikes, in a sense that even if we make a ceasefire, there could always be a return? Because in the past there was some hedging and quiet engagement with Iran between GCC nations and Iran.
Yeah,
I think this will change the relation and diplomacy and the way the GCC nation deal with Iran, right? After this stops.
I think so. It's not going to be easy to forget. I mean, it's like the whole Iraq issue. You know, we've never been anything but peaceful, and we've always been you know, an ally to any peace talks, especially Kuwait, to be honest. This administration in Kuwait and the previous administration under His Highness, you know, we're supposed to forget, but in reality, I think it'll be very difficult for us to forget what happened to us. Of course, common sense and judgment will prevail, and we will continue to behave in a civilized manner. But deep inside, I think Kuwait will be emotionally upset by this moving forward.
Yes, Doctor, that was fruitful. We'll get a quick break and come back to you.
الحرس الوطني قادة وقوات دائما على استعداد وجاهزية تامة لحماية الوطن بالتعاون مع زملاء السلاح في وزارتي الدفاع والداخلية وقوة الإطفاء العام، وتقديم الدعم والإسناد لكافة جهات الدولة، خاصة في أوقات الأزمات والطوارئ. ونسأل الله أن يحفظ وطننا الكويت من كل مكروه في ظل قيادته الرشيدة.
Announcement from the Ministry of Interior. The General Department of Civil Defense will conduct a trial operation of sirens on Tuesday, November 5, 2024, at 10 a.m. across all areas of the state of Kuwait.
بتوجيهات مباشرة ومتابعة حثيثة ومتواصلة من قبل مجلس الوزراء ووزيرة الشؤون الاجتماعية الدكتورة أمثال الحويلة، سارعت وزارة الشؤون إلى وضع الخطط المسبقة التي تهدف من خلالها إلى المحافظة على مستويات المخزون الاستراتيجي من السلع المواد الغذائية والاستهلاكية، ولضمان سلاسة وسهولة تدفقها إلى الأسواق التعاونية. قامت وزارة الشؤون ممثلة بقطاع التعاون بتشكيل 6 فرق ميدانية بواقع فريق لكل محافظة، وذلك للمتابعة اليومية للتأكد من كفاية المخزون الاستراتيجي. إن هذا العمل هو ثمرة تنسيق وتخطيط مسبق مع جهات الدولة المختصة التي وضعت لضمان استدامة الأمن الغذائي في مختلف الأوقات، ودامت الكويت بحفظ الله ورعايته.
الإدارة العامة للدفاع المدني على استعداد تام وجاهزية عالية، ونعمل وفق خطط مدروسة ومحدثة باستمرار لمواجهة أي طارئ، ونتابع مع الجهات الحكومية كل ما يخص احتياجاتها لضمان استمرار نظام سير العمل وعجلة الإنتاج وسير الحياة الطبيعية، ونقول للجميع سلامتكم أولويتنا.
الوطني قادة وقوات دائما على استعداد وجاهزية تامة لحماية الوطن بالتعاون مع زملاء السلاح في وزارتي الدفاع والداخلية وقوة الإطفاء العام، وتقديم الدعم والإسناد لكافة جهات الدولة خاصة في أوقات الأزمات والطوارئ. ونسأل الله أن يحفظ وطننا الكويت من كل مكروه في ظل قيادته الرشيدة.
تؤكد وزارة الكهرباء والماء والطاقة المتجددة بأن عمليات توليد الطاقة الكهربائية وتحلية المياه تسير وفق الخطط التشغيلية المعتادة، وتؤكد الوزارة على جاهزيتها التامة للتعامل مع أي طارئ من خلال خطط متكاملة تتضمن الإجراءات الواجب اتباعها لاستمرارية الكهرباء والماء. وتوفر لدى الوزارة كفاءات وطنية مؤهلة وعلى أعلى درجات الاستعداد لتفعيل هذه الخطط متى ما دعت الحاجة. والمخزون الاستراتيجي من المياه العذبة في البلاد في ازدياد، إلى جانب توفر مخزون من المياه الجوفية، مما يعزز قدرة المنظومة الوطنية على الصمود والتعامل مع مختلف الظروف.
We are still giving you the latest in Kuwait and regional news, and of course the government efforts that they have been putting against the Iran war and the heinous strikes that have been happening and everything around the conflict for further understanding for the people of Kuwait and the people residing in the state of Kuwait. And now we are still with our doctor right here in the studio, Dr. Ziyad. Dr. Ziyad, we're back with you, and now we have a few questions about the Gulf and GCC nations. You have informed us about the security in the region, and of course we discussed many segments around the world and important economic aspects around the Strait of Hormuz and gas prices, oil prices and everything. Now, one important question arises in terms of the GCC nations being claimed by Iran that they are targeting the US bases. Now, the question is, do you think that the targeting of US bases in the GCC nations is a tool and used by Iran to as an existential crisis they're living in, or as a tool they're using to gain, let's say, to gain probably attention from different regions in the world, or maybe to subject some parties to negotiate in their terms?
Yeah, no, the narrative or story that this striking even US locations within the Gulf for me is honestly a pathetic and unacceptable one. Striking US bases in the Gulf is not going to alter anything. Ultimately this war is with Israel, basically. It's not with us. So I can't see in any shape or form what striking your neighbors would achieve. If anything, the Gulf states were against the strike in the 12-day war that took place from the States on Iran, because we said it was unnecessary, it was illegal, and we stood with them that there is no legal forum, international legal forum, that allowed for that to happen. So by doing this, they've lost our sympathy. So I can't see a logical reason why this would be the case.
So you don't see them using it as a tool like they're using the Strait of Hormuz?
I don't see that's the case. No. I think there's an expression in Kuwaiti that I can't use, but they're not fighting the real fight, and we are in their opinion, the weakest link. This achieves nothing basically by bombing the Gulf states, especially under the current U.S. administration, and they know that we're not going to be able to sway the current U.S. administration to change for whatever reason. So I think that's a very poor excuse that we're being used to put pressure on the Americans. I mean, it's counterintuitive. The Israelis and the Americans are bombing you, and you're bombing us.
But it's definitely not random logical strikes. It's definitely not random strikes.
No, they're not. To be completely honest, this is definitely above my pay grade. But the accuracy, to a certain extent, of where they are looking for American installations leaves one to wonder as to how they're accurate. I'll say, alhamdulillah, it's not been on civilians, but even one civilian lost, which we have, is one too many for us to accept. So, but I'll leave that to the...
Because it has collateral damage.
It has, and this collateral damage is not acceptable.
Yeah.
The stories we've seen recently
our sovereignty, violating international law and United Nations Charter.
Absolutely.
So,
because this debris has killed several people in the country, unfortunately, and I hope that's the end of it.
And affected several
many homes, and so I think it's unacceptable. There's no reasoning behind why this is a strategic ploy to get the Americans or the Israelis to stop. I think it's a weak excuse and an unacceptable one, to be completely honest.
And Doctor, now that you have informed us holistically of this war that has happened and the heinous strikes, obviously in terms of security, politically and economically, and of certain other aspects, what message would you give to the people of Kuwait and people residing here, and of course to the GCC nations that they're watching you right now?
Right. Well, inshallah, I hope this conflict comes to an end. I'm in no role to be advising, the country, but as a citizen, I say my advice would be, obviously, in terms of media and information, stick to the official media platforms. Try to avoid gossip. Try to avoid the non-vetted media outlets. It's a natural thing. We all do it. The only thing, I do it myself, unfortunately, although I'm advocating against it, and it just adds to panic and stress. So from a media outlet, this would be my advice. I think we're in a good position, inshallah. I think the Gulf is in a good position. I'm very proud with how resilient we have been as a country and as a group of countries in the GCC. And I genuinely wish that a good judgment prevails very, very soon, and this conflict comes to an end, inshallah.
Inshallah. And of course, the Ministry of Defense, Dr. Ziyad, what would you like to say to them? They have been resilient, as you have said, they've done a great job.
I thank you for bringing that up, because I should have said that right at the beginning of the conversation, at the end now. In a similar way, again, to COVID, this is the doctor in me, because I keep drawing parallels to COVID. My hat and respect is off to absolutely every single individual in every ministry that's working, be it the private sector or the government sector, the Ministry of Interior, our soldiers, our police officers, people in the KOC. We are grateful. Allah yawaffakum. So absolutely nothing but respect, and we thank them, obviously.
Hopefully. Thank you so much, Doctor. Dr. Ziyad Alayan, thank you so much for the fruitful and elaborative and obviously clear answers and holistic ones here at our KTV2 News studio.
Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Dear viewers, that was Dr. Ziyad Alayan, Editor-in-Chief in Kuwait Times. Now let's take a quick break and come back to you